I'm Stuart Render, a freelance group travel consultant, travel writer, transport writer, and I'm going to be facilitating these sessions across today and tomorrow. Now, this show is all about coach tourism, and coaches themselves, of course, are the backbone of group travel. It's therefore vitally important that the group travel industry works to improve access, enhance facilities, and create a smooth and seamless experience for group travel organisers and their groups. Now, that's important, of course, right at the very first point of inquiry, right through to delivery on the day, and if it's appropriate, the wave away at the end of a visit. Now, in recent months, you've probably read about destinations in some of the UK's most popular tourist hotspots looking to ban coaches. Now, when it comes to congestion or over-tourism, then coaches are sometimes seen as the problem, when in fact, of course, as we know, they can be part of the solution, bringing around 45 to 50 people at a time in a single vehicle, ready to spend money and bring a direct benefit to a destination's visitor economy. It's a message that, bit by bit, is getting out there. Now, our first speaker today knows that message all too well. So, to set the coach tourism scene, to tell us more about the importance of being coach-friendly, and to get this year's keynote theatre programme on the road, from coach and bus industry trade body, the Confederation of Passenger Transport, please welcome UK coach manager Phil Smith.
Thank you very much, Stuart, for that introduction. Just to put things into context, I thought I'd start this morning with a few statistics, which I think it's probably late enough now to sort of digest those, just to demonstrate the power of coach travel and what coaches can do for the UK economy. We commissioned some work from KPMG last year, which really took a deep dive into what coaches are worth to the UK economy. And just some headline figures are shown here. We believe that around 450 million individual passenger journeys are made by coach for all various reasons every year, from long distance express coach travel right through to corporate and pure coach tourism, which is what the theme of this event is all about. Coach passengers spend around £5.5 billion at tourist destinations each year, and they spend around £8.3 billion in the UK economy as a whole. Inbound tourism, which is very important to the UK as a whole, but certainly in certain regions of the nations of the UK, such as London and the South East and Scotland, spending by coach passengers alone from this segment of the tourism market, we estimate is well over £500 million per annum. And from a social and local economic perspective, but benefits the whole country, around 54,000 people are directly employed in the coach sector. So I thought those statistics would just set the scene for demonstrating the value, worth and power of coaches to the country. Moving on, these are some of the sort of softer but nevertheless essential benefits that coaches bring. Safety gets a boost. I think over 50 years it's proved to be one of the safest forms of travel of any mode. We bust congestion. Typically, a 50-seat coach that's full can reduce up to 25 individual car journeys. We clean up the air. Coaches emit up to 5 times less CO2 emissions than any other mode of travel. And just to put that into context, you might think, well, hang on a minute, a train with 10 coaches in tow has got to be more environmentally friendly than a coach carrying 50 passengers. Bear in mind that a lot of trains have have diesel engines which predate the Euro rating for emissions, and that's why coaches are more beneficial to the environment. We also are responsible for ensuring people are included in the ability to travel. Big segments of the coach market, involve the movement of school children for leisure as well as home to school purposes. And of course, older people who either don't have a car or are unable to drive anymore can still go on holiday because of coaches. So these are all things we should be saying through our marketing when we're going out to both existing customers and potential ones to promote coach travel. So how can coach tourism grow? Well, CPT run a coach-friendly scheme, which I happen to manage at the present time. We have 36 destinations, and that interest is growing. We've got another 6 or 7 applications in the pipeline, which I'm confident will turn positive this year. In order to get into the coach-friendly scheme, they have to meet several key requirements, such as either free or very reasonably priced coach parking, centrally located pick-up and set-down points if coach parking is remote from the centres of interest within a destination, and they also have to provide adequate signage so drivers can find the parking and can find the picking up and setting down points. We also expect them to provide benefits for drivers, and we also look for free toilet facilities as well, which, whilst it might sound basic, is very, very important and often hard to find in some places. Local transport authorities, destination management organisations, we're on a quest really to ensure that they see coaches in the same light as we've largely persuaded them to see buses over the last 20 to 30 years, in that coaches are part of the solution when it comes to sustainability, whether that be making sure that people can get into locations and places of interest in a volume sort of way on a 50-seat coach, etc., and also making them see the environmental benefits that coaches can bring when they're trying to meet targets on air quality and things like that. In other words, making sure they see coaches as part of the public transport mix. We're also seeing a worrying trend in certain places across the UK that for either for political reasons or for reasons of things like road space or the actual size of places because they're historic cities, etc., are trying to limit tourism. And unfortunately, they pick on coach tourism as the prime target for restricting the numbers of people that come to visit them. So we're at the moment, we're fighting a rearguard action in places like, well, we'll name them, in places like Edinburgh, the Cotswolds, particularly, to try and prevent coach access from being restricted. That said, we do try and work closely with a variety of destinations and destination management bodies. I sit on a user group for Heathrow Airport, which is a key destination for many coach operators taking groups to join flights or meet them from flights. We also take part in other working groups around the country where tourism is a key activity for that particular place. And I also sit on the Tourism Alliance as a director, and I sit on the Scottish Tourism Alliance representing the interests of the coach sector. so that we're not forgotten when it comes to key activities like inbound tourism, or indeed at the moment in Scotland, big debate going on about how the visitor levy is going to be managed. And we're also seeing increasing interest in visitor levies and visitor taxes elsewhere in England, although people may have noticed that the most recent one in Bournemouth, Christchurch and Poole has been put on hold. We've just had a couple of successes in terms of arguments we've had with a couple of places regarding access. Bolton on the Water was a long-running issue which we've now found a partially suitable resolution to, in terms of somewhere for coaches to park. And Matlock Bath, which was the coach park there, was out of action for over a year. We've negotiated a deal with the district council whereby if the coach park, which was happened to have been blocked by a travelling family, if they have to renew their obligation to house that family again, they've given me an assurance that they won't use coach bays to do it. And they've also, as an act of goodwill, offered free coach parking from now until the end of May, which CPT, through myself, negotiated. So, a final thought to leave you with. When you're talking to destination management organisations, or anybody else where you're going to send your coaches to, and they might be a bit hesitant about hosting you, just remind them that one extra coach visit per year can yield them £1 million. So that is the power of coach travel. And with that, I'll rejoin Stuart. Thank you.
Phil, one of the things that can really annoy people living near to coach pickup points, of course, is the issue of engine idling, which might sound like a very technical and boring topic, but it's one of those things that can really get people animated and upset and start criticising coaches coming into wherever they live. Drivers, of course, will say it's to keep the heating or the air conditioning going, depending on the time of the year. But what advice is CPT giving to coach operators, and so that members in the audience here can understand the wider issue? How can, or is that information that should be passed on to group travel organisers and tour planners so that in fact they do understand the situation?
Yeah, I think you're right, Stuart. There is a two-pronged approach there. We've been both proactive and reactive when this issue's come up. We often use our internal comms to members to remind them about the problem on a generic basis. But I'll give you an example where we actually took, I hesitate to use the phrase direct action, but as direct as it can be, given as we're not an operator, in that there was an issue in central London, in the street where coaches often go while they're waiting for groups to visit Westminster Abbey or the changing of the guard, significant things that tourists like to see when they're in central London. And there was a real threat that Westminster Council will ban coaches from that location. And unlike some of the other, in inverted commas, bans and restrictions coaches sometimes face, which are not justified and are for other reasons than the fact that the industry may have committed a wrong, this wasn't, because there was a further education college in this particular street, and it was a hot summer of 2023. They had all the windows open, all the vents were open, and the college kept being filled with diesel fumes. So we were in a bit of we weren't in a strong negotiating position. So what we did, we obviously got it out through our comms to ensure that members were aware of this issue and to make sure their drivers were, shutting down engines, etc. And we also paid sporadic visits to the location ourselves as CPT to make sure that there wasn't an issue for residents or businesses in that particular street to complain about coach driver conduct. So I think the short answer is if a DMO or anybody else for that matter raises something like this with a tour operator or a coach operator, come and tell us and we'll do what we can to resolve the issue.
It makes sense. We have a question. Hurrah.
Hello, I'm Julia from Warwickshire. It sounds like a lot of the issues around access are a result of a retrofit on coach parking solutions in town centres. Have you seen any examples of proactive planning to accommodate coaches that are worth us knowing about?
They are few and far between, I have to say. That said, we've recently had an example at Ottery St Mary in Devon, where they've actually applied to become coach friendly, and in the original application they said they were going to be reliant on a garden centre on the outskirts of the town to provide the coach parking, and it now transpires they've actually got 2 coach parking bays which are helpful. The other thing that we can offer or we can facilitate, because we are CPT and we represent the broad, body of the whole bus and coach industry, is that if operators in our membership are struggling to find parking places, particularly in urban locations, we can actually talk to our bus operator members to facilitate coach parking. And a good example of this is in East London, where Arriva have, on application, facilitated free parking at one of their East London depots for a coach operator. And we can actually work on this elsewhere in the country. I've done it a few times now where operators have been struggling to find places to park, and particularly if it's during the day, we can find a solution with some of the bus operators who are in CPT membership. And I actually see that developing because, if you go on our stand, we've got an electric coach here today, and a lot of our bus operator members have said they will offer electric charging facilities as coach operator members become zero emission. I know that's a slow burn issue, but it's an example of how CPT membership can provide benefits for coach operators from elsewhere within the membership.
I noticed looking around the audience, we have 1 or 2 destinations here and attractions. What's the first step in becoming coach friendly? What's the very first thing they do, other than perhaps phoning you up and going, hello, we'd like to become coach friendly?
I think they've got to have some foundation points, like they have to have some coach parking. Now, it doesn't necessarily, we like free coach parking, and there are examples of free coach parking, but it doesn't have to be. As long as the charges aren't excessive, that will not debar an application for coach friendly. The other sensible conversation an applicant has to be able to hold with us is how people can find adequate toilet facilities, because again, particularly in England, over the last 10-15 years, we've seen a very accelerated decline in the number of free toilets available. One example I could give you is Nantwich, which is coach friendly, and they actually have it's quite unusual, but it's worth mentioning. They actually have a scheme whereby all the traders that have toilets, mainly cafes, have all agreed that they will let their toilets be used on a free public basis as part of coach friendly accreditation. But again, we're just dealing with an application now in East Devon, and they've got a Sainsbury's with toilets, so that it will pass muster on that basis. So I would say that they're the two things. And of course, the third thing is if the coach parking is remote, and I think I mentioned during the presentation, then there has to be a sensible pick up and drop off point, and it it can't be bus stops. And the reason for that is that, or it can't be bus stops which are used frequently, because we can't have coaches blocking bus stops, because that defeats the object of the scheme.
Okay. Do we have a question? But one thing I'd like to ask really is that it seems to me that everywhere is going to be different. The opportunity to become coach friendly, and therefore when a tour planner, a group travel organizer, whoever's thinking of coming to visit a destination, when they're looking to see whether that's somewhere they want to go, they want that place to be as coach friendly as possible, but everywhere is different. Is there a template of, you mentioned it earlier I think, but a template, like a bit of best practice that everybody should be working towards? Some of the things to make it true or proper coach friendly might be almost in that's next year's budget, we can't do it yet, but are you able to go in and encourage DMOs or indeed visitor attractions, because we haven't really mentioned them yet, to think, right, that's what we need to be doing, and we have CPT behind us giving us the impetus to make that work, and the end result is you get more groups, you get more coaches.
I think one of the things, again, that's linked to that, which we haven't discussed yet, is signage. And the reason I mention signage is because often, and I have to say that a lot of them are very, very good at managing tourism, are the third tier local authorities in England, the parish and town councils, because they're very close to the product, they're very close to the stakeholders within that locale, and they can get things moving very quickly, but they don't have control over highway management. And I won't say where it is, but we have a location in West Yorkshire, which is part of the Leeds Metropolitan District, who are the Highway Authority. And I audited them in 2022, and it was a very good audit, but there was a slight issue with some signs. And they're at the behest of the first tier authority who manage the road network. And I know when I go back later this year, that will probably not have been done. And that's because for love nor money, they can't get the Metropolitan District, which is the centre of which is some 10 miles away, to actually spend the money to put the signs up. So I think that is a big issue with Coach Friendly, and it's not always within the gift of the applicant to be able to resolve it, because in fairness, we don't have that many first-tier authorities in coach-friendly membership at the moment. We are hoping to get one not too far away from here soon, but there's still one or two T's to cross and I's to dot.
We've spoken about destinations, but for visitor attractions, who you would have thought, as they're in complete control of their own world, should almost all be coach friendly. Now, visitor attractions can apply for coach friendly accreditation, but what are the particular challenges that a visitor attraction might face to tick all the boxes?
Adequate coach parking, pick up and drop off points near the entrance for the guests. We've got a few, and we've now introduced a nominal charge for the commercial ones, which isn't very much, but it just recognises the fact that it is a big plus point for them making more money, basically. But the applications we've had are very, very good. We haven't had anybody any tongue-in-cheek applications where it might be a great attraction somewhere, but they don't actually have their own coach part. We haven't had anything like that, I'm pleased to say. Other places where for example, that we don't charge, all the Royal Horticultural Society sites are in coach-friendly membership. And I've taken the view that that's, I'm not trying to big them up, but they're, in inverted commas, a national institution. So, it's right for us that they're coach friendly and that we can say they're in the scheme. and it's right for them for sustainability reasons to be in the scheme as well. And it's something that's, I know people have to pay to go there, but it's something that the whole country shares.
And do you think that being coach friendly clearly is a route to attracting more coaches and groups? I have this notion that a group travel organizer or a tour planner sitting at their kitchen table or their desk or wherever they do these things these days and thinking, right, we could go to this place or that place. That place is coach friendly. They obviously want us as a group, as a coach operator, to visit. And so it is really important for more people, more places to get the accreditation. But do you feel, and I'm guessing this is a matter of resource, it needs to be better known, and does CPT need to be spreading that word, possibly using those places that do have accreditation to get that word out there and to explain the benefits of it?
I think there's three parts answer to that, Stuart. I think firstly that what group organisers or operators that run their own holiday tours programmes and people in that category can realistically expect is that if they see coach friendly attached to a destination, they can expect, and I'm using this word guardedly, there'll be some sort of exceeding of minimum expectation. And I'll give you an example would be the drivers will be looked after, which somewhere that isn't coach friendly, you can't guarantee that's all. And we have taken a robust approach on this. I mean, we had a renewal in 2023, which I won't name them, but I had to really push. They'd had coach friendly for some years, and I had to really push them on getting something for drivers because they'd never actually delivered. So we are quite hard on applicants and renewal candidates as well with that. Secondly, I think we need to do more to actually promote the scheme and make it easier to find information on it. I'm about 75% of the way through writing fact sheets on all the destinations, which are available through our own comms, and I'm hoping that this year the CPT website will be actually changed so that there's a more accessible coach-friendly page. We've had some changes internally which have made that a bit more difficult than it ought to have been, but we are working on that. And the third point I would make is that I've just attended the Scottish Tourism Alliance Spring Conference, and yesterday I was at the Tourism Alliance Spring Conference in London. And this ties into coach friendly and what you're asking. I think that sustainable tourism is going to be the next big theme of over the next few years, and coach friendly certainly helps willing destinations and attractions to deliver on that. But I actually think there's an opportunity now for operators and group tour organisers to actually widen the demographic of travellers on coach tours and holidays, because a lot of the, we haven't got time to go into it here, but a lot of the data analysis that people are doing, whether it's Visit Britain or other organisations like that, are all showing that younger demographic, members of younger demographics rather, will actually pay a premium for sustainability. Now, I think if operators and group tour marketeers look at how they actually package their products and start aiming the marketing towards a slightly younger demographic, you could actually grow your customer base. And it's a bit of a generalisation, but historically we've kind of relied on the over 55s disproportionately. There's some concerns there. I mean, I'm in that bracket now. I'm sort of still doing holidays that take me far and wide, globally, and hope to do for the next 10 years. So that's changed from the sort of wartime generation and post-war generation who are in this, the current, make up a lot of the current client base. And of course, a lot of older people are driving for longer. So that we've got to look at ways that we can widen the customer base. And I think sustainability could be the key to doing that.
Okay, well, thank you, Phil. Time is upon us. What I will mention, though, is as part of being coach-friendly, and you probably do it anyway, is the meet and greet. But what do you do at the other end of a visit? If a group comes to visit you, what's the opposite, or the other end of the process? And I will leave a thought with you as we finish this session now, is that have you thought about doing a wave away? So you have the meet and greet at the beginning, and when the coach is ready to leave at the end of the day, if you know the coach is going at a certain time, and this applies probably more to visitor attractions and destinations, hotels already do it, of course, for the most part, but when the coach is ready to go, then jump on the coach, say thank you, and then wave the coach away. It's a small thing, you meet and greet, and you wave away. But on that topic, thank you, Phil, that's been fascinating. Food for thought. Can you thank Phil, please, in the usual way?